So, Kat, welcome back to the Mark and Me podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Mark.
Kat, it's really good to have you back. And I think just before we started talking today, I worked out it's been about 3 years since you've been on, so we've got loads to talk about today. For the listeners out there and the viewers today, I think a lot of them don't still appreciate or understand how early it was in your life that you became such a big fan of music. Can you tell me about those first early albums that you remember buying, maybe with your pocket money or was handed to you, that made you
Yeah.
absolutely fall in love with music?
Well, I mean, I think I fell in love with music before buying my first record, but I was brought up in a pretty musical family in the sense that we all played instruments.
Yeah.
You know, we don't come from money, but somehow my parents managed to get like a little piano, like a hand-me-down piano type thing at a thrift store or something. And so myself and my siblings, we um all played and practiced classical music. So that was our upbringing. My dad played the trumpet. My mom played piano, guitar. My grandmother was a pianist herself, so she was the one that started teaching us at the age of 5 how to play, classical music. So I think that was my first passion. I really fell in love with Beethoven, Mozart, Chopin, like all the romantics, and then it wasn't until my early teens, like when I was 12 or 13, that I discovered punk rock music.
Yeah.
And the first album I bought was a Plasmatics record. So I'd never seen anybody like Wendy O. Williams, and she was just beautiful, cool, and had something to fight for, which was very attractive to me as a teen. And I don't know why. I don't know why I felt, you know, um, connected to somebody who was that way because it's not like I had anything to riot against, but but I liked the attitude and the sentiment behind her music.
With live music, it all changed for me. I was about 13, I think, and my parents dropped me off. And my first ever gig was Green Day on their Dookie tour. And I remember walking into the venue and being blown away. I was like, at that point, they were only a three piece. They hadn't had stuff like American Idiot and the fame that they got now. And it was unbelievable. And the moment I came away from that gig, I thought to myself, I only want to do music for the rest of my life. Like it was in
That's so
my
cool.
veins and my blood. And I remember hearing the vocals and it like shaking my rib cage. And I wondered what your introduction was to live music. Was it a cool one or was it one that's embarrassing that you don't tell people
No,
or
no, no. I I think it was just small little punk rock shows, and I felt the same. I didn't go to like a big proper stadium show until I was much older. To be honest, couldn't afford it, but
no?
it was more just. I think the music I liked too was didn't cater to that anyway. I think like there wasn't a lot of big punk rock bands at that time that were playing big shows, but so yeah, I don't know. My parents were kind of strict, so we weren't really allowed to do a lot of that stuff. I had to like sneak out and go see a show, and um, which probably added to the excitement. Looking back now,
It makes it more punk rock, doesn't it? Like jumping out your window in the middle of the night to try and get, not caught and go and see a gig. I think that adds
yeah.
to it.
Oh, so much anxiety.
I miss that now. I can just say I'm just going to a concert tonight or a gig and it's
Yeah,
okay. I'm like, oh, it's not as punk rock, is it?
yeah.
So you're seeing these early bands, and I suppose people won't appreciate, but learning classical piano at the age of 6 is pretty hardcore. It's not just picking up a guitar and playing a few chords.
Yeah.
So you were listening to some serious, incredible compositions. Like that's some real dedication, which I think a lot of people don't realize. I think people think music's come into your life later on.
Yeah, I mean, I think and for some people it does.
Yeah,
I've met people that, like my husband, he didn't start making music and performing until like 10 years ago. So it's pretty new
that's
considering how much
insane.
he's done. And so, yes, I think it's different for everybody, and I think some people have, um, innate charisma, I guess. So a lot of times it's almost more important, like than just being able to technically play something.
Yeah. Did you kind of have any inklings or desires to want to start writing songs before the last kind of 5 years? Was it always just a dream, or when did it actually become a reality? Because you see a lot of people that turn from acting to music or from a different career path, and people don't take them seriously. They feel like you can only have one thing you can be famous for. And I wondered, did that ever put you off or kind of scare you away from going,
Um,
fuck it, I want to do music?
I think, I mean, I understand where people's hesitancy is, and when you see a shift in an industry change, especially when it comes to actors, I feel like there's so many bad examples of it. Or, people that are famous and they just want to, they one day come out with an album that they didn't really have much input on, and
Yeah.
it's more of a product versus an expression. And I think it's not to say that it hasn't happened. I think there are a few good examples, but I think there are probably more bad than good. So I understand when people are like, "Oh no, let's see what this is all about." But then at the same time, I think, I come from a musical background and an art background. Like I'm not an actor or, or I don't know, like famous for
Sport or
being
something.
rich
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
So I've always been very creative, and also I think tattooing is already pre nestled in the music industry anyway, in
Yeah.
a weird, strange way. It's it feels a little more intuitive. So, anyways, to answer your question, I think I've always liked to write, and because I have a musical background, it's always been attractive to be able to use music as another form of self-expression. But it's not like I was like, oh, I dream about, you know, being on the road or anything like that. I think it's just, I mean, I like it. I like traveling and playing for people, but I don't think it was like my initial career goal.
I think last time you came on here, we were just about to see release Love Made Me Do It, and we were talking about influences and the style and everything behind it. And genuinely, and I'm not just saying this because I know you, it was a fucking incredible debut. Like to make a statement and leave on the industry like that. I thought everyone should take note. Everyone should take you seriously because the production, the vocals, the layers, the amount of time and depth that had gone into the recording, it really showed. And I was like, fucking go. Like, this is awesome,
Thank
you know?
you. Oh,
But it's true.
thanks.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
we talked, I think, about Nine Inch Nails and synth-based music that you used to love and all these kind of bands, but Depeche Mode, all that, even crosses with Deftones side project, I hear it all in your kind of production and the music, and I don't think anyone can say you sound like anyone. I think it's like a mixed bag of all the things you've experienced in life, probably
Oh,
musically
thank
and
you.
everything else. So massive hats off to you, honestly. It's like
Oh,
so
thanks.
brave, but such a payoff.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I just want to always create things from the standpoint of a fan. I think
Yeah.
that's important in whatever you do. It's like you have to be a fan of something. And I think there's a lot of people that are, I guess, more like mathematicians when it comes to music, and they're writing based on a formula and what is expected of people or what's working out there. And I mean, I see that in everything, really. I mean, you can see that in a lot of industries where people are just repeating uh, a certain formula that they think is the key to success. Whereas, like, I just want to make stuff that I like, that I want to listen to, and that I want to play and sing and be proud of. And I think fans are smarter than people give them credit for, and I think that they can see through a lot of that. So, I make niche music. It's not like I mean, I do have pop sensibilities, but it's not like I'm making mainstream stuff. My stuff's a little dark and um, I guess more artsy. So, but it's not made for everybody either. I think it's speaking to a certain soul. So,
When it came to then touring, and I know obviously COVID and stuff gets in the way, but when it came to actually doing the shows, was it quite tough to then replicate what had been recorded because of obviously the production? And when you're in a studio, you can do overdubs and get extra guitarists or session musicians to beef up the sound and stuff. And I wondered when it came to kind of getting that and translating it to a live set, was it quite challenging because you have to make sure you got the right amount of musicians, people you trust, people that are going to do the songs justice?
I mean, we didn't use any session musicians or anything
No.
like that. It was just my bandmates. So
Yeah.
we did all the sound design and um, created all the synth parts for everything. we program drums, which is typical with electronic music. But
Yeah.
so I think when it came to playing live, it was just more of like we're doing what we did in the studio as well, and we're just having to um, create visuals for it um, and yeah, and beef up certain sounds just so that you have the sense of something being played live. It's different when you're playing a synthesizer versus a guitar, I think.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I enjoy it. I love production. I come from a TV background, so I like or film background, and I like playing with light and storytelling through visuals and um, choreo and things like that. So that live shows are very exciting for me. I think it's like putting the song on the pedestal it deserves.
Do you get, and I ask this to everyone, but do you get really nervous before you go on? I know you've got obviously your husband who's been touring and doing big, massive shows again with big production and stuff, and a lot of friends in the industry, but do you feel like there's extra pressure and you're like, oh, fuck, like I really want to do well tonight. I really want to nail this show.
Well, I mean, I always want to do well, but I don't think I get nervous. It's more just exciting. I'm just so grateful. I've been wanting to play music live for so long, and I think that I mean, we talked, I think, a little bit about this last time, but just life gets in the way of life sometimes if you allow it to. And I was so consumed by the business aspect of my life that I think I squandered away a lot of years to that. And whereas in hindsight, I wish I would have maybe made my music a priority sooner. But I think we live and learn, and it's all good. So I think when I'm getting ready to play, it's just so I'm just so happy and grateful.
Do you feel like you wish, and I know it's in hindsight, but do you wish you could have dropped the beauty line earlier and dropped all the
Yeah.
art and tattoo and just been like, I wish I could have done this
Yeah,
music 10 years ago?
I tend to stay in like bad relationships for a few years too long. I'm one of those. It's like, oh, I should have broken up a while ago, but it's okay. I think I was creating an empire and I did a good job at it. And I kind of just can't wait to start pushing that chapter away. And I've done it before. I've shifted in careers many times and so it's nothing new. I just think with music, it takes a little longer because um, unlike I mean, there's pros and cons to having a built-in fan base. I think it's like
Yeah.
you have this audience that's waiting for you, but at the same time, like we said before, they're gonna always question when you're shifting into something new. Like, is this how good is it gonna be? And I don't think I'm everybody's cup of tea, but at least when you listen to it, whether you like the style of music or not, like I've done my homework in a lot of ways, so it's not just something I'm slapping my name on. Like I really believe in it. Um, and and me and my bandmates are working really hard. So it's I think it's cool.
I feel like, and tell me if I'm wrong here, but my perception on the outside is that you're creating more than just an album. You're creating like a world,
Yeah.
and people can decide to be part of that world and venture in and become part of it because it's all the aesthetics and everything that you see visually when you put on a live show, the lighting, even what you're wearing, the makeup choices of the rest of the band, the setup of even where the musicians are on stage, it's all part of the storytelling. And I believe that with the artwork of the album and the photography and all the way that you do your social media, it needs to be taken as a whole package. And the thought and the creation that you put into that is not just you've just turned up at the studio and sang to a backing track and left and had this celebrity name on an album cover. You've put your blood and your heart and your soul into it. And that shows from reading the lyrics to the way that everything has been thought about. And that's why I
Oh,
think
thanks.
you're getting all the credit because people can't just be like, oh fuck it, she's just singing and that's it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. And I'm patient and I think things take time. I think the more music that I create and release into the world, the more people will start getting used to it, understanding that this isn't just a phase.
yeah. But I suppose once everything's out there and your kind of music's out there for people to review and critique, and I suppose listening to people's feedback, It must feel quite vulnerable. Maybe I'm different, but when I release an interview, I'm thinking, oh God, it's done now. I've hit the publish button. Like someone can come on and say it's the worst interview ever, or I didn't look right, or I didn't look interested. Or people pick, don't they? They like to fault things before they pick out
Yeah, I mean,
the
there's just a level of I don't care that you need to, you know, introduce into a personality. I think the bigger you get, the more of that is to be expected. And I'm like I said, I'm used to not being everybody's cup of tea. You know, I've always been an outcast even within my own family unit. So it's like I'm not really a stranger to types of criticism or just people not, you know, into you. And that's okay. Um I think it's important to keep your eye on the prize on the people that you are catering to and the people that are responding and feel like, you know, they feel understood by what you're doing. I think that's I just know as somebody who's been on the other side of it, it's so important and crucial and um, you know.
If you can send me some of that in the post and then inject into my own personality, I'd fucking love that. It'd be so useful to sell it. That's your
Yeah,
next
I mean, you
business
know,
venture.
I'm not trying to say that there's not times where people say things that don't affect me.
Yeah.
There are. Most of the time I'm just like annoyed by people, like, ugh, you're so annoying. But very rarely am I taking it back and really like, well, no, I mean, I don't think I've ever cried about it, but yeah, it's just you just kind of have to not care.
I wondered, yeah, I'm not looking for like a counseling session or advice here, but I wondered how you become so thick-skinned because whatever you do sometimes, if you're under the public eye,
Yeah,
you can do something so simple like you're in Mexico with your family and you post a nice
yeah,
dinner party, and someone will say, "Oh, I can't believe you've got a vegetarian menu on the
yeah,
table.
yeah.
Like, how
It's
dare you?"
everything. I mean,
Everything. You can't do
yeah.
anything. It feels like your life's under the biggest microscope. And I'm kind of thinking, can Kat actually just have a normal day where someone's not like, "Oh, that's a lovely set of black roses," and you're letting people come in, but what about the danger? Like, fuck it,
Yeah,
I'll give,
no, but
you know.
I don't know anybody who has that interaction with the world. I think the internet it's a very like warped, mutated version of what maybe society's supposed to be. Like obviously, like most of the time when people are saying negative things, they would never say that to you in real life.
No, you're
I mean,
true.
it hasn't happened to me. I've never had anybody come up to me and say, you know, what some of the mean things they say online. Um, Guaranteed most of those people would probably, you know,
Run a
turn
mile.
around and ask for a picture or something. But I think it's just understanding that that's what it is. And to be honest, I just block and delete if I just
Yeah.
think like negativity breeds more negativity, and so it's just like that's just you know. I think it's a privilege to be able to have a window into someone's life. I don't think it's a right. And so, you know, if someone's going to act a fool,
No, it's good because you do let people into your life more than others, and I think, sharing, if it's your every year you do a family photo and you're sharing that with the
yeah,
world, that's something so personal, but you're choosing to let people have that kind of insight into your world, and I kind of feel like
I love sharing.
it's
I love
beautiful.
sharing.
Yeah.
And I think, and there's a lot of people even in the parenting world that disagree with that. You know, I have a lot of friends that won't post photos of their children or they'll censor them. And I'm just like, look, if you start, I mean, no shame if that's your approach to
Yeah.
parenting. I'm not judging at all. But I just feel like at what point do you just delete yourself? Because it's just, people are always going to do bad, evil things. They've been doing it with um, pictures of me for a long time. You know,
Yeah.
you just have to pray for those people. I don't know. I just don't think. So, anyways, I like to put positivity into the world because I, I think I don't know. I find joy in sharing my family dynamic and sharing the side of me that maybe people aren't necessarily used to. I think we see a lot of the opposite, or at least I tend to see a lot of the opposite um, put into the world. It's very surface a lot of
Yeah.
times, and you know, I mean, we're posting pretty pictures and stuff, but But I do like to show my family life. I love my husband. I love our little tiny nuclear family, and um, I love seeing my son grow and us figuring it out and sharing that with the world. You know, like I posted a little video of me teaching my son how to read, and I homeschool my kid, and it's like my husband just caught this candid moment where I was just crying when he was figuring out how to pronounce
Oh,
letters. And oh man, it's just like, this is so cool. And this is a documentation of a moment in time that will never happen again. And that's, it's cool to be able to share. I don't share absolutely everything, but I like giving a peek into my world. I
but
think
it's not.
it's,
It's nice you celebrate those moments because imagine 20 years ago I had found you and said, "Kat, in 20 years' time, you and your husband and your son are going to be sharing incredible, stories in the
yeah, I would
world
have
in a
laughed
new
at
house."
you.
You'd have told me to fuck off, probably. And it's great. So why not embrace that? Why not enjoy those moments and kind of? I like that
Yeah. And,
you're.
and some people aren't equipped for that, I think. And some people, like they said, everybody sets their own boundaries. And I think that's cool. But, I don't know. I also don't understand private accounts. I'm like, why even have social media?
Yeah. Do you feel
But
like life's at its peak at the moment? I mean, the fact that you're not involved in the beauty line and you're not too heavy doing tattoo and you're focusing on music, you're focusing on being a wife and a husband,
yeah, yeah.
a mother. Do you feel like life's pretty damn good?
Yeah, I think it's all seasons because I feel like I mean, my elementary school years were peaking. I feel like, my 20s, every season is just so exciting to me. Even when I was more reckless and doing dangerous things and, it's all part of it. So I think it's all good. And yeah, but I am enjoying this chapter of my life the most. I think leaving the big city and moving to a rural area where it's I don't know. I thought time would move slower here, but I think it's actually moving faster because I'm enjoying it a lot more.
I love it. I told you before we started recording, I've been married since our last interview, and I've moved into closer to my hometown in Shropshire now, and it's just fields and farming, and it's beautiful, and I don't miss the city one bit. I feel
Yeah.
like I've always meant to be here, in this part of my life, and I absolutely embrace just taking the dogs for a walk and having a bit of fresh
Yeah,
air and seeing nature and beauty, and not actually caring about the latest shiny toy that I needed in the old life of
sure.
mine.
And like I said, I think there's seasons. I enjoyed my city life during a certain era, and it was a lot of fun. And we get the best of both worlds because we oftentimes go back to Los Angeles. That's where all of my bandmates are. That's
Yeah.
where most of our producers are, and we have friends and family there as well. So it's nice to be able to go. And I think that there's pros and cons to both sides. I think the food in the Midwest is not good at all, and I don't care what anybody says. And I think California cuisine is the best. I prefer it over New York, over San Francisco, over Texas. So I think there's good and bad to all of it. We have ticks out here. I hate ticks. I'm deathly afraid of them. But we also have like rolling fog in the morning going and the deer eating in our front yard. And it's just nice. My son can run around and I'm not scared about him getting kidnapped or ran over.
I genuinely believe ticks are the worst thing in the world. So we went on a holiday a couple of years ago in Wales, and I was walking through fields with the dogs, and it felt like a really nice time. And as soon as we got home, our little dog Florence was like nibbling herself. I was like, "What
Oh
is it?"
no.
And
Uh,
then I was sat with my wife, and she saw something in her skin on her arm, and
oh
was
my
like,
gosh.
"That's
You're like,
moving."
"Ah."
And it's the worst. I wanted to like burn the house down. I was like, "This is the
Yeah.
worst thing in the world. This is what happened, Kat." And I shouldn't be sharing this with loads of people, but I had to take my top off, and there was
Yeah.
one legs in the back of my back crawling
Oh my
out, embedding itself in my skin. Now, if I told my wife in advance, like, you're going to have to try and remove with tweezers this tick out of
yeah.
me, she would have never have done it. But in the moment, she was like, "Get me the tweezers," and pulled the thing
Yeah.
out. And I'm not joking. There's probably not much worse that could happen to me in this world than having a tick being embedded in
I,
me.
I have yet to experience one, but
I hope you
we
never
did
go
find
through
one on
that.
my son's head once, and it was just horrifying. But I think
It's not
there
a nice experience.
that's the payoff, right? Like I don't sit in traffic, which is so
Yeah,
nice. Traffic is an everyday thing. Like every time we go to Los Angeles, and I'm not going to make this a whole interview about the things that suck about LA, but you know, we looked at our GPS and it was like for 6 miles was an hour.
it's
Like,
crazy.
and we spend such a huge amount of time in frustrating traffic that it's like I don't know if that's not the life for me. But I also don't go out much, so it's not. I'm a bit of a hermit, so it's fine. I don't have to deal with it that much. But yeah, I think I'm just grateful for being able to have the best of both worlds um and being able to still visit. We're like 3.5 hour flight away from LA, so it's not bad. And um
The thing is, you create such a nice home which you've shared online, and the beautiful poppy fields, and such a beautiful building
yeah,
and land. You want to actually enjoy it, don't you? You don't want to be then
yeah,
never embracing it. We've got a nice home. It's not on the scale of yours, but we have a lovely little cottage in the countryside, and we have log burners and stuff. And we don't even want to book a holiday anymore because we're like, well, we really want to
yeah,
enjoy what we've
same.
done. You know, we're
Yeah.
enjoying our home.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, I do feel like outsiders at times only because in LA we have all of our creative artist friends, and out here it's just a different type of, a different breed of people, and there's a lot of commonalities in other ways and like definitely in values. Like I feel like I definitely connect more to the values of the working class and people that are um the desire to live off the land and to um, raise a family and all that stuff. Like here, it's like homeschooling is very normal here. Like
Yeah,
today, my son's at a co-op with a bunch of other homeschool kids, and it's a very you can't find that in the city as much. But at the same time, like I don't have any songwriting friends out here or people who are artists and my husband and I we just don't feel a deep connection with a lot of the people out here in that sense. We're just like the funny weird married couple here. So that's why it's like, well, that's why we have friends that come out and visit us, and
yeah.
that's why we go out to LA for that. So you get the best of both.
So when you're feeling creative and musically, you want to then put pen to paper, and you're like, I feel like I got this song in me, and I really want to get it out there. Does it kind of feel a bit restrained because you can't jam with your
No, because I
friends?
don't work that way. I don't work
No?
that way. I think in my 20s, maybe I was like smoking cigarettes at 3 in the morning and I got an idea and I could go to the piano. And I just don't, I love structure. I really thrive in structure and the
Yeah.
schedule. And when I'm derailed is the most chaotic for me. I don't like chaos. So,
No.
so even for this last album, I feel like we wrote it very efficiently and it was a scheduled thing. We worked 5 days a week, 9 to 5, in songwriting sessions. Obviously, if you're in the creative mode and something's good coming, I'm not going to stop it at 5, but that's what we would typically aim at. And then when we went into production, it was the same thing. It was 9 to 5 on the weekdays. We would sit there with my bandmates and knock things out. And I ended up writing, I think over 22 songs, and I forgot how many made the album, but it's just it's not. I like doing it that way. So I don't. I kind of reserve my creative time. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything at all. Like, I if anything, I feel like doing it the other way is so much harder. Like
Yeah.
to be random about it because I like to be like, okay, let me get um a mic set up. I like to like put down ideas right away instead of just um, writing here and there on little pieces of paper. I'm just not into that. Some people like to, my husband likes to do it that way. He likes to work on lyrics, outside. I'm just like, I don't like that.
You like structure, that's fair.
Yeah.
So with My Side of the Mountain, at the moment when people are watching this or listening, it's not going to be quite out. It's like days away, I think it'll be.
Yeah.
I'm always curious when I interview bands and musicians and songwriters, the pressure that might come with trying to do that second album, that follow up, because you've left your foundations on the industry or put your name out there with your debut, you've put everything into it, and then you kind of have left this bar to kind of then either work towards or try and even top. And I wondered, what was your mindset going into the recording and the writing of your, your new album? Because
Yeah, I
I
don't know if I
wondered,
necessarily see it like that. I just think it's exciting to share a new chapter. I think the first album I wrote so long ago, and it was well, I still write dysfunctional love songs, I guess, but I think to me it's more exciting to it's not necessarily to top the other one, it's just to tell a different story. And
yeah,
I'm I'm constantly trying to push myself vocally, and I think with this last album for sure, I was like, hey, I don't want to be shy about it. And I think the first album it's nice because it has that shyness and the vulnerability to it, whereas this one there's just a little more um, push to different emotions and frustrations where so it's a lot more upbeat in a sense, and and that's exciting to me. I think I always want to do better than the thing I've done before. I always said with tattooing, like the best tattoo I've done is the last tattoo I've done, or at least that's what it should be. Um, but I look back at some of my favorite bands and you see their discography, and it's like, well, I appreciate all of the eras for the most part. you
yeah.
know, it's nice to see something feel a little lo-fi, in the beginning, and not that our first album is lo-fi by any means, but I feel like it's a different time.
I feel like with your songwriting, I'm only going off by Vampire Love and Dead, which I've heard so far. I feel like, and this always happens with my favorite music bands like Thrice, Paramore, Radiohead, you've evolved. And it might have only been since one album, but I don't hear you playing it safe. It's not like, well, I've established myself, I've written an album, and I'm now going to duplicate that and just change it up a bit. You are letting yourself breathe, you're allowing yourself to become more confident. And I've heard that in the vocal performances, the stuff I've seen live on Instagram stories and stuff. But everything, I just feel like you're evolving as the album's
Yeah,
coming out, and I feel like that's always going to keep me interested. That's why my favorite bands
yeah,
are like the bands I've mentioned.
yeah. I mean, yeah, that's how I look at like Depeche Mode's
Yeah,
albums. Like I can appreciate the earlier stuff, but I definitely love even the last few records have been they still
yeah.
hit home, and
I
I
went to
love
see them actually recently with my wife last year, and I was first time I've ever seen Depeche Mode, and I don't think we said a word to each other for like an hour. I was just like, oh my God, like
so cool.
so fucking good. So
Yeah.
if that's the path you want to go on and be like them, wow, we got a good 20 years ahead.
I don't know if I would want to flatter myself in saying that, but no, but I like when you think of, I just can't get enough and compare that to songs of faith and devotion. It's like, you've had the honor of watching somebody grow up and
Yeah.
on all levels, and I think that's very cool. And I'm still growing up too. So
So with this album and it being a different journey and a different story, do you kind of go into it with wanting to do everything quite different? Do you want the visuals to be different to tell the different story so it doesn't feel like the first
I mean,
cycle?
sometimes they have to, I
Yeah,
think things that don't.
because you still need
Uh,
to be you, don't you?
yeah, yeah, and I mean, I never run out of ideas, so I think that's like I said, very exciting to me. Um, and yeah, I think I think out of every medium that I've ever poured myself into, music is just by far my favorite. And it's the one that I've had to work the hardest at.
Is there, and someone that I've spoken to a few times now with you, is there still things on a list that you feel like if I had this chat with you 10 years ago and you're like, I want to do music, now we're here today, is there still stuff that you feel like is on a list that you need to tick off in your life? Like you've done art, you've done tattooing to the best that it can be, you've done all the beauty range, you've done music, you've done video production. Is there still stuff that you've got to do?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I love all elements of design, and I have a lot of things in the pipeline that I will be releasing. I don't think I'm gonna ever stop. I
No.
think you just keep going.
What about directing? Because I reckon surely there's one day going to be a music video or extended short film or even a feature that maybe you direct because you then get to tell the story through the visuals.
Yeah, I mean, I like documentary like style storytelling too. I don't know about like directing features and stuff, but yeah, I mean, I'm always open to stuff.
And as we're sitting here now, you're getting ready to go on tour.
Mhm.
How does it feel when you're obviously now married, you've got your son, you've got to take everything into it? Do you try and make it of like a vacation and a holiday and an experience for you all to embrace?
I just think it's more of just establishing a lifestyle. Like my son has been touring with us since he was born, so he loves a tour bus and he loves being around other creative people. You know, it's interesting. His concept of life is not. I like he doesn't understand half of the time how cool. I'm like, oh, Charo bought you your first guitar. That's so cool. That's his. To him, he's like, oh, that's just Aunt Charo. And and he knows that his dad and mom play music, but I don't think you know what I mean? It's like he's still 5. But so I think for us, touring it's definitely a family event. We like to tour together, and it's like we have a little carny lifestyle, and it's cool. And I think homeschooling him makes it a lot easier as well. So he still remains on a schedule, and I don't know. My kid's awesome. I think he gets along great with babies, with kids his age, with older kids, and with adults. And I think that's because he's constantly been surrounded by, um, all of us. And he is an only child, so I feel like that, he's just not a shy kid. And
I can
and it's
relate. I'm an
interesting.
only child too, so we know what it's
Yeah,
like.
it's awesome, and I mean, he's so socialized. It's not like he's just by himself all day. But we did go to Mexico this last year, and it was or this last month, and it was like a family trip with my dad and my uncle and Leofar and Raphael, and it was so cool to see how it's not the well-behaved part, it's just more the excitement. Because I remember going on vacation as a kid, and I told this to my dad. I was like, "Hey, do you remember we complained a lot, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, it was really weird. We would be in South America or some beautiful exotic place, and you guys hated it. We were just like, this is boring, or."
So
And I don't
true.
know what. Whereas with Leofar, it's very adventure focused for him. Like, going to the simple little things is an adventure for him, and it's really fun. And so I don't know if we're just raising him different, but people who I hate when I see these memes on Instagram where it's like um it's not just single people, but even people with kids where they belittle the parenting experience. They'll be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, here's our trip, and it's don't have kids unless you want it to be ruined." And I'm like, "What kind of relationship do you have?" Because we have fun. Like we were picking up lizards. We went um, swimming through a cave together, and Levar was just. I mean, he's also a brave kid. He's just such a good sport about things. And um, I would hate to do it without my kid. So I don't know if other people are just having different experiences, and but I enjoy life as a mother, and I enjoy bringing my son along.
Does it feel like you now embrace and see things through his eyes that then make you appreciate things more that you've had in the past, being a mum?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think it's just yeah, it's exciting to see him absorb the things that as a kid I was able to. And I sometimes I catch him daydreaming. He'll just like stare out the window and he's watching leaves fall, and I just no, I don't interrupt those moments. But because I remember as a kid doing that, like riding the school bus and just testing out my depth perception on eyes, and just thinking about things. It's cool. Yeah, I love it.
It sounds beautiful. I've not got kids myself. I've got dogs and they're our furry babies
Yeah,
and we live our lives through them and they are our whole world. So
yeah. I've got cats.
yeah, but it's I saw yesterday that you're, and this is not think something I wanted to really discuss on the interview, but I just go to. But anyway, I saw that
Yeah.
you're like have these massive clear outs and you sell
Oh yeah.
loads of stuff on these this certain app where people can go on
Yeah.
and bid for your stuff. And I wondered, is that just like a nice way to kind of like a snake kind of sheds its skin and gets rid of everything and then starts again, or is it just because you've just got so much stuff and you're like, we need space?
Yeah, no, I like it's like this live auction app and it's just my friend Candy Johnson was doing it and I was like, what is she doing, man? Like, and then I watched it and I was like, oh, this is so cool because you're getting to spend time with fans and you're interacting in a different way. And I was getting to know my friend Candy on a way that I normally wouldn't, and I've known her
Yeah,
for years. But then watching her talk about certain things and memories and then like her mom would come in and it was just like, oh, I get to hang out with Candy. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try it. And then I have been purging stuff. I've just been simplifying a lot. I told my husband when I was unpacking, because now that we're finally moving in, I was just going through this clothes and I was like, I don't think I necessarily had a problem per se. Like I wasn't like, I must shop. But I think that because I came from such a poor upbringing, there's this urgency. There's this urgency that I've since then worked on. But like I would find a dress that fit me or that I liked, and then I would have to buy like 10 of them.
yeah.
Just because what if I could never find this again? And I'm like, I don't know if that was just because we were so deprived as kids of certain like normalities for other people. And I was like, yeah, I think I was like probably trying to cope with some things. And there's no need for me to keep so many things. And other people should be enjoying this. So I like doing these auctions because um, you kind of give a piece of yourself to somebody else. And also too, I collect really beautiful things. And it's like, there's other people that love these things too. And I feel like, why not let other people use them? And I was never really frivolous, I don't think, but I definitely got used to just buying things without thinking, like, I don't know, not without thinking, but it was just more.
Impulse buys, aren't they? They're like, you love a t-shirt, you think that's really cool. As a kid, you may have not been able to have that t-shirt, so you say to yourself,
Yeah, I mean, I have like 20 of the rarest Slayer shirts, and I literally don't wear t-shirts. Like at that point, it's like, okay, I'm a collector, and it's like, and I do believe that you should wear these shirts. And so, of course, I kept a little stash, especially for Leofar, um, but there's just no need for me to have. I mean, I have so many Sisters of Mercy shirts, like I mean, and they're all very valuable. And so I think at the time before I was married, before I had like, I would go on Etsy and eBay and just kind of overdo it. You know what I mean?
when you were
And
going through, you were kind of
yeah,
showing stuff that you had to sell on the video yesterday,
uh,
and you were going through like a wardrobe line of t-shirts, and I was like, oh my God, I want that, I want that, I want
uh,
that. It was
yeah, it's all my band
incredible.
shirts, concert shirts, and
Yeah,
it's funny because I plan on talking about it when I do the auction just because
yeah,
people are like, these are old shirts. Why are, but there's something to be said about a concert shirt. I have like a few Judas Priest shirts from 1984. And it's like, obviously I was, 2 years old at the time. I wasn't at that concert, but I was like, the person that got this shirt, he went to that show. And I just wish so bad that I could have been there during that time. It's like a
yeah.
fucking time and it's like an artifact to me. I'm like, this is so cool. So anytime that there's a dated, like a lot of the shirts I have are dated, and that to me is so important. It's like, um, it's never you're never gonna experience that again. And so I love that. Like I'm a nerd about that kind of stuff. And then
I'm really
obviously
frustrated.
the
I'm
rarer
frustrated because I was going through and clearing out some stuff at my parents' house the other day, and I was going through boxes, and I was finding like really early Foo Fighters tickets when it was like eight
yeah.
pounds to see them in a venue with 200 people,
Oh,
and
I
I was
save every
thinking,
ticket
and I
I've
was
ever
like, I
gone.
wish I kept every ticket. I was finding some really good gems, and I was like,
Yeah.
ah, I wish I kept every single one. Like,
Oh,
as a
I'm a crazy archive
yeah,
person. Like I've saved the first five of every single thing I've ever made in my life. Like since I've have every line drawing for every tattoo I've done. I've saved every piece of fan mail that has ever been sent to me, and I have it all organized by year. I have jail mail, like because my show used to play in prison a lot, so I have a lot
yeah,
of inmates that would send me, letters with beautiful drawings, and I've read all of them. I've written back to all of them, and I just can't and we have like a really big basement, so we have like a whole, it's just our archive room. So I get really particular about that stuff. I've saved every birthday card people have sent me, every ticket stub or lanyard. Like I'm one of those people.
I should have done it. I wish I had a folder now for like cinema tickets, gigs, festivals. My mom's thrown them all away, and I had early Nirvana t-shirts, some early tours, and I just like, what I'd do to get them back. One day I'll probably just buy them all again off eBay.
Yeah, and you can come to my auction and get them. No, just kidding. I don't have
Yeah,
Nirvana shirts.
I'll be logged
But if
in
you
next
like
week.
black
Like,
metal,
I
I
want
got
that.
you.
Yeah, you got some great stuff. And you know what I do on this podcast is I always like to end the episodes with an interview question that goes to every single person from all different walks of life. But you get to choose a song that you love that is played at the very end. So when this goes out for people to listen to, the final piece of music that's played is from you. So you can choose whatever song in the whole world.
Huh.
But the reason
Did I do this
behind the
last time?
choice, you did it last time.
Was it The Cure?
It
I
was
feel
going to
like
be
I was,
It was the Cure, yeah.
yeah, I was like Disintegration, probably.
I think it was, yeah. But I
Yeah.
wondered you got to pick something different this time. And some
Okay.
people have been on the
Yeah.
show 4 or 5 times. They've got lots of different choices.
Okay. There's a band called Trust. It's spelled TR/ST, and they have a song called Shoom, SHOOM, and I love it. I think he's a really talented musician. More on the obscure side, but yeah.
I've not heard this band, so this is good because people come on and
Oh,
tell me Stone Roses or Rolling Stones or Oasis or the Beatles, and they're great songs. And they've got a lot of
yeah,
reason to have that. But when I get to them discover something new, I'll be like spending the next week now just listening to Trust and
yeah,
be like, oh, this is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Check it out. Yeah, check out the album with Schumann. It's a what it's self-titled.
Awesome. I'll record a little outro now and then I'll stop recording and then just talk to you if that's cool.
Yeah, 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 totally.
So, Kat, thanks so much again for coming back on the podcast. I always feel like we could talk for hours. So, I know it's only been an hour now, but you're always welcome back. And I can't wait for people to hear the new album. I hope we get to see you in the UK playing some shows. And it's just
Yep.
a pleasure to have you on.
Oh, thanks, Mark. Man, I love chatting with you. You're the best, and I just love that you're doing so great and that you're bringing love into music. I think it's like such an important thing that you're doing, and so just please keep it up.
I promise you I'm not going anywhere. And I will be sitting with you doing another episode, I'm sure, in a couple of years' time. And I
Love
still
it.
plan to do that when we're 80 years old.
I love it.
Thank you, Kat.